SUMIF and SUMIFS, we'll do that. So SUMIF basically combines sum with an if condition. So calculate sum if something, right? So that is what is SUMIF. So I'll show you an example. When we get to Excel, we'll just quickly check that. How did you fill serial number 1 to 700 by double clicking on little thing? Please repeat. So like I had already mentioned earlier, so if you think of an Excel file, right? I'd already told you that if you go to 1, 2, right? And then you go ahead and drag, okay? Then Excel will be able to fill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. If you do A, B, okay, and then if you drag it, it'll only fill A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, okay, because it does not know whether this is a text or whether this is some sort of a serialization, right? So there is no way for it to do. However, if it is January, okay, then it knows that there has to be some sort of, you know, serialization involved. Okay, some sort of a serialization involved. In most cases, this will be okay, except in a few cases, like you will have a few people who are named April, and there are people in the West, you know, daughters, some girls, they name their, some people, they name their daughters April and June, etc. Not very common otherwise. So then this one gets autofilled. So Monday, Tuesday will also get autofilled similarly, because again, it involves a chronology. Okay, so anytime there is a chronology involved, they'll all get autofilled. Now, what did we do from 1 to 700? So if you just go to any random column, right? In that case, I went till, sorry, row. In that case, I went till row 701. And from there, you go up and you fill it, right? You fill it, and then you will get all of those numbers. Now, why did I get all 30 over here? Because when I'm filling, it's only selecting to fill range of this one. So what is the way out for this? In this particular one, it will not work. But when you have an adjacent column with a lot, I'll show you. Okay. In fact, delete this. Let me delete these two. Okay. Now, there is one adjacent column. There is one adjacent column. So if I select these two cells, and there is this little square in the corner, if you can see, I'll just zoom the screen a little bit, right? If you can see that there's that little square in the corner, you just double click, right? When you double click that, then Excel is able to fill all the way. How? Because it knows that since there is text over here, it knows that this must be what I want to do. However, let us assume that this text had some space in between. Okay, now if I select and double click, Excel is not responding, right? It is not responding. I'm double clicking it, it's not doing anything. Why is it not doing anything? There is no way for the system to understand what is my intent, how far do I want this cell to be filled, because there is nothing here in this column. You see this column is completely empty, C is completely empty, so the adjacent columns are completely empty, and here after 1, 2, it goes all the way up to 1.04 million, right? So there is no way for Excel to understand till where do I want it to fill. But if I have no spaces and if I have an adjacent column, then Excel can immediately understand that I want to fill till here. So this is the technique that I had used that day to fill numbers between 1 to 700, right? You don't necessarily have to fill only 1, 2, okay? So you can, for example, do 10, 15, okay? Why would you want to do this? Suppose you decide that you might have newer, records coming in. So you can just do that. So then again, it'll continue to be unique. It'll continue to be unique, but it'll go as 10, 15, 20, 25, and so on. All right. Okay. So regarding assignments, regarding the assignment, I believe some of you had requested that you had uploaded the wrong file and so on. So I believe some of you requested to re-upload that. So therefore, we did open it temporarily, and I got 2 new submissions. And unfortunately, both of those 2 new submissions we do not understand. Okay, so I'll just show you. I mean, again, I've removed the names because my intent is not to point out any person, but just to see what is happening, when I'm looking at it. So over here, if you see, there is no analysis at the bottom. Okay, and there is a new tab which is named analysis and which looks empty, which looks completely empty to me, right? So I do not know whoever had submitted, so you know who you are. This is what we received. If I'm missing something, just let me know. Another one was this one. Okay. So if you see here, I'm absolutely lost where this has come from. So here you see there's a name error. That's because on this, there is a formula which says average of discount. And since all discounts are 0 in the accounting format, there is an error that's coming over here. Again, column D, which says discount is none. Okay. There is a minimum of column D. So when there is minimum of text values, remember discount none is 0. We understand none is 0, but a computer doesn't understand that none is 0. To a computer, the word none over there might as well say Montana, might as well say France, might as well say Canada, might say Apple, might say engine, might say motor car. No difference, right? So it's to us as a human, we understand that this is 0, but a computer does not understand. So you try to calculate the minimum of column D, it's going to give you an error because there is nothing in that. Okay. Similarly, again, randomly, there are these formulas. So again, minimum of column N, right? So this also will give you a reference error because here there is a circular reference. Okay. When you say minimum of column N, the entire column gets selected, right? And within that column that is selected, the formula also. So the machine is going into a loop constantly because the formula will return a value and then it will try to calculate that value also and then try to find the minimum of it. Okay, and then again it will try to do that repeatedly, so therefore that answer will never come. So these are the only 2 submissions that we received after we were requested to re-upload, and unfortunately, to my great disappointment, both of them look like they are invalid submissions. Okay, so with that said, we'll move on. Just park all of your questions for the end. Okay, just park all of your questions for the end. All right, so talking about data representation. So the first question that arises is, why do we need to represent data? Why do we even need to represent data? That's the first question that arises, right? So the first question that the first reason why we need to represent data is because data, it is absolutely impossible to look at raw data. And why do I say it is absolutely impossible to look at raw data? It's absolutely impossible because it is tremendously tedious to be looking at raw data. Okay, and when you talk about things like, say, for example, if you say that there's a lot of data, say 1,000 data points, 2,000 data points, 3,000 data points, and imagine trying to find an idea about that particular data set. Imagine trying to find an idea, get an idea about that kind of data set. You will not be able to do anything. So there are a variety of things that can be done to represent that data. So there are certain non-visual ways to represent data, and then there are data visualization related ways to represent data. So non-visualization, typically and most commonly, we use what is called as frequency distributions. Okay, so we'll talk about frequency distributions today. And then from a visual perspective, we'll talk about graphs and charts. All right. So I want to draw your attention to one particular thing, which is it's a human nature to be more drawn to visuals. That's a human nature. Okay. The majority of our brain processing is directed at visuals. All right. So we tend to understand much better what we see. And that's really the reason why data visualization becomes so important. The reason why data visualization becomes so important is this. Okay, so that's the reason why, you know, having a nice graph, nice chart, good visualization on a presentation is so impactful. That's the reason why it creates so much of an impact. All right. So today's session is very important from that perspective, because a nicely represented data can very quickly get the meaning across to everyone else. Okay. So, you know, you would have seen a variety of charts like this. You would have seen line charts, pie charts, bar charts, column charts, all sorts of things. So we'll talk about how to create each one of these. We'll also talk about some best practices for each one of these. And most importantly, we'll talk about what kind of chart to use with what kind of data. Okay, so that's probably, to my mind, that's the most important thing, because I see far too many people using the wrong kind of chart for a particular kind of data set. Okay, so this is what we are going to try and focus on today. So the first thing we look at would be bar charts. Okay, we look at bar charts. So how do you prefer? Do you prefer that we understand all of the charts that we want to see first, and then we'll go to Excel, or would you want to do one at a time? I think we'll go one at a time, right? So we'll learn a bit about bar charts, then we'll practice bar charts on Excel, and then we'll come back and do the next one, right? So we'll go that way. All right. So bar charts, they can be either horizontal or vertical, right? So typically when we talk about bar, we mean, you know, they are horizontal bars or they are vertical bars. However, Excel uses the term column chart to represent vertical bars. All right. In our normal regular usage, we don't always tend to draw a distinction between bar chart and column chart, but Excel denotes those two separately. Bar chart is horizontal, column chart is vertical. Usually, x-axis would be frequency, a whole number kind of a data, or it would be some sort of a nominal data, okay, names. So x-axis can either be frequency, whole number data, or it can be, sorry, y-axis would be nominal data, and x-axis would be measurement data, or x-axis could be names. The good thing about this is comparison by looking visually, by just seeing it, comparison becomes very easy. Okay, so you can have multiple bars, and those multiple bars will quickly let you compare what has been happening. So suppose you're trying to compare between years, trying to compare the performance of different students. Okay, so bars or column for that matter are just like these tall buildings. So the taller the building, the higher the marks, the higher the score, right? So comparison between them becomes very, very simple. Now, what really is the difference between a vertical and a horizontal bar? From a chart information point of view, there is no difference. All right. So there is no difference from a chart information point of view. What is the only difference? The only difference is that when you have very long labels, then horizontal bars will give you more space for labeling. So what horizontal bars will do is that the bars themselves will be thin, but you will get a lot more space for labeling. I'll show you that as well. And just a tip for visual appeal, right? Only for visual appeal, to make the bars look nice, make the bars and columns wider than the space between them. Okay, so it just makes the bar look a lot nicer. I'll show you how to do all of this.